Hello, my name's Nick Hoffman, and I'm a fourth year chemical engineer at the University of Cincinnati. So far, I've completed four internships throughout college, and three have been with a company called Rockline Industries, and they're a pharmaceutical grade wet wipe manufacturing company that also makes specialized wipe products. And my most recent and fourth internship was with a consulting firm called Inline Engineers. My first internship with Rockline Industries took place in Morristown, Tennessee, and it was a brand new manufacturing plant that they just bought. And my first day, I walked in and I didn't really know what to expect. I made it into work and it was just an empty warehouse. So I was really confused at what I was going to be doing for my first internship. But throughout the semester, I was able to see it grow and expand and become a fully functioning processing plant. I got to see all the valve banks, a reverse osmosis system, batching tanks, and um, what we called circle machines that would uh, call for what ingredients we need and what formula of the what they called lotion they needed that would be shipped out to the circle machines that would be shipped to the processing machines that would take them and put it on the woven fabric, and it would go through a processing machine, and it would cut the wet wipes into individual pieces and put lotion all over the wet wipes. So I got to see the testing of these wet wipes to make sure that they had enough lotion, they were able to clean a surface efficiently, see them get sealed in a bag to make sure it was uniform and even for mass production. And I also oversaw the testing to make sure that the sealing mechanisms of the bags worked correctly. That was over my first internship. And my second internship, I was also in Morristown, Tennessee, and I oversaw a lot of the validation of the systems. So my first internship, we did a whole bunch of testing, and we were barely making product that was not regulated enough. And my second internship, we did a whole bunch of validation work to make sure that we were getting consistent results and we were able to just run the process off of a push of a button with the new programming that was put in. Most of my time was spent checking the program and doing validation work to make sure that the correct amount of water and the correct amount of ingredients were being added into the lotion. And I worked with a team of other engineers to make sure that the machines that were making the wet wipes were running efficiently. Over my second internship, I started to notice something was weird with our reverse osmosis system. And I noticed that our flow sensors were not working some days, and then other days they would. So we're really confused at what was going on. So over about a week and a half, I took notes on all the alarms and all the faults on the system, and I was able to determine that something wasn't right. So I looked into it, and I saw that the flow sensors, they were pedal wheels. So as the water went through the reverse osmosis system, it would cause the wheel to spin, and it was able to calculate the flow rate. But we were getting water that was flowing through the system, but the pedal wheel wasn't turning. So we were really confused, and we brought out a specialist. And because of the time I took to diagnose all the faults and come and figure out that something was wrong, we were able to tell that sediment from the filters, the water softeners going into the reverse osmosis system, was making it into the system, which was not good because it was sending rock and resin beads all throughout a stainless steel system. So it was scratching up the surface of the pipes and getting into the uh, the RO membranes. And it ended up ruining the membranes, but we were able to keep the system intact because not enough damage had occurred yet. And that was how I ended my second internship. For my third internship, I was also with Rockline Industries, but they sent me out to Morristown, or they sent me somewhere other than Morristown, Tennessee, and they sent me to Arkansas. I went to their Springdale, Arkansas plant where it was their main headquarters, and the group I was working with that time, it was called the Global Engineers, and they worked in all the plants in Arkansas and oversaw the expansion and the validation of all the systems. So over my time in Arkansas, I visited three different plants, two that were based in Springdale and one that was based in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I was able to see how each plant differed and how some plants were more established and more advanced than others. During this time, I got to see the installation and validation of a facial wipe system, and I got to see what it was like working in a real live plant where you had to work around the plant schedule and not just taking your time and being able to do everything that you needed to do that day throughout the entire day, like I was able to do in Arkansas or in Tennessee. This was really interesting to me because it was a lot of communication between the plant engineers, the plant operators, and then my team. There were just small windows where we had maybe 10 or 15 minutes to go through a valve bank and put in the valve bodies for like 15 or 20 different valves. So we were all working together, just trying to get it all done within a small time frame. I was able to see the installation of two 10,000 gallon tanks and four 5,000 gallon batching tanks. So that way we were able to separate the facial wipe system that they were expanding and then the mass production of a baby wipe system. I was able to see the validation of all this equipment, the installation of a new water filtration system, and then the validation of the actual facial wipe production equipment. My favorite part of that internship was working with the facial wipe production equipment because I got to work with a team that was based out of Italy that knew the equipment forwards and backwards, so they're able to describe the entire process, what every little piece did, and it was very interesting to me. We were able to get the system up and running and installed in the short time frame of my internship of about 3 months, and that was really cool for me to see that a project could be completed throughout just a couple of months because my first two internships, it was over a long period of time, and they weren't making validated product that would be sold to a customer yet. My last internship was with a consulting firm called Inline Engineers that's based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And their main office is up in Mason, Ohio. And then the other office is down in Louisville, Kentucky. When I first started, I was nervous because I hadn't really done any consulting work. But I went into work and they basically told me everything I needed to do and all the plants I was going to be working at. I was at a bulk bag kettle cook production facility out in Harrison, Ohio. I got to see the production of crackers and Cheez-Its and vanilla wafers over on the east side of Cincinnati. And then my favorite part of this last internship was they sent me out to Philadelphia to look at a pork processing plant where they were going to install a new bacon processing line. And my job was to go through and look at the existing bacon processing line and write down all the required utilities and hookups that all the equipment needs, and then all the spacing that would be required for the operators to work comfortably. I didn't really think anything of going to a pork processing plant because I never really knew how it was completed. And I found it very interesting to see people were basically shoulder to shoulder processing the pork, and everybody had a knife and they were just doing their little cuts as it went down a conveyor line, and they were able to separate out an entire pig in a very short amount of time. And going through all the equipment they use, I was able to see that they like to work in small spaces because everyone's shoulder to shoulder and you make your cuts quick. And if there's big gaps in between each person, it just slows up the line and then you have to have your conveyor a lot longer than it is actually needed. I also noticed that they used forklifts to transport a whole bunch of things. So it was a bunch of forklifts carrying processed meat and ingredients to create the pork and all the seasoning. And they were going down pretty fast down long corridors to get the processing equipment from one side to another. So we came up with the idea of, for the expansion of the facility, to have a lane for the forklifts and a lane for people to walk because it was pretty dangerous to go through and walk through the facility. We also came up with the idea of elevating the system so that way people didn't have to walk all the way around the the equipment to make it to their station. We had areas where we were able to elevate the equipment to have a safe walkway with egress so that way the workers were able to get out safely in case of an emergency and also just get to their workstations um, a lot more efficiently. And I'm currently working with inline engineers throughout the school semester, and I've enjoyed it so far. So far, throughout this school semester, they've had me mostly in the office instead of out in the field, where my past internship, I was never really in the office. I was out in the field and I got to see a whole bunch of expansion projects. And I was able to manage teams of um, millwrights and welders to oversee all the tasks they needed accomplished to get the equipment installed. And I'm hoping to continue my experience and keep on learning as I go. Thank you.